Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review. And today we're taking a look at the brand new Mezco 112 Collective Mezco site exclusive Far From Home Spider-Man. And I think this was a pretty bad choice for an exclusive because Far From Home was a good movie. It was well received. So this is like a popular version of Spider-Man. I don't know why they'd want to make it so limited. They don't usually produce that many copies of their site exclusives. So it kind of sucks for hardcore Spider-Man fans that missed out on this. I almost missed out on him myself. He was announced at Comic-Con and then he was put up like for pre-order right away during the convention. So I missed it. I thought that I pre-ordered it, but I didn't. And luckily my boy over at Sculptimo Toys had my back and he was able to get me one. So huge thank you to you, man. I really appreciate it. You always come through. You're the best. But let's go ahead and get into this, starting with the packaging. I like the smaller packaging that they use for the exclusives. I wish they'd use it for all their figures, but they refuse. It is what it is. But this does look really nice. It says Spider-Man Far From Home right here in front. We have the Mezco exclusive sticker, Marvel down here, Mezco 112 up there. On the side, we have a Spider logo. On the back, we get a really nice shot of Spider-Man himself. It's some like really cool looking artwork. That is dope. I like that. On this side, we have another Spider logo. And that's about it. It is collector friendly. And I always find it funny every time I get a Mezco exclusive figure because the boxes are so small and it just makes so much more sense. So I just don't understand why they don't do it with all the other figures, the standard releases. I'm so tired of those big ass boxes. But anyways, who cares about the box? Let's talk about the toy. Alright, so here we have Spider-Man right out of the box, and this is a really good looking figure. I'm a big fan of this costume design for Spider-Man. I was a big fan of the movie. I think it's probably one of the best Spider-Man movies that we've seen so far, but I just love the way this looks. It kind of reminds me of the first appearance Marvel Legends Spider-Man with the red and the black, so that's good. One thing that jumps out to me as a positive with this figure is the fact that his crotch area isn't sagging like it was on the Homecoming version. As you can see here, the crotch area looks like it sags a little too much and it kind of looks funny. It makes the costume look a little too baggy, and it looks like they fixed that problem with the Far From Home version, so that's good. And just in general, check that out. He looks really good. One complaint I've seen a lot of people have with this figure is that his neck is a little too long, and I could see what they're saying, but to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't have even thought about it unless it was brought to my attention. I think it looks perfectly fine. But yeah, the suit looks good. Right out of the box, the figure feels nice, except for his hips feel a little looser than I was expecting. It's not crazy loose. It's not like his legs are flopping around or anything, but usually with Mezco figures, their joints are a little bit tighter. In this case, not so much, but still, it doesn't feel like it's breaking or that it's too loose or anything. It's just a little looser than I expected. But yeah, in general, the figure looks and feels good right out of the box. The sculpted parts on this figure have a lot of really nice detail. You can see that the mask has a lot of texture to it. The web lines are sculpted, the eyes are sculpted. There's no flat parts on the head, so I think that looks really cool. Even the neck has the same type of texture and sculpted web lines, so that's dope. The hands look really nice too. You can see that there's texture to the hands. The forearms look good. Under here we have some red that looks nice. And then the feet have a similar type of texture. So that looks really good. I like the way all the sculpted parts look. And I like the black of the costume. I like how they use this. I'm not sure what it is, but it's some kind of pattern on top of like the traditional soft goods. So I think that's dope. It looks really good and makes it feel more movie-like. The stitching is very well hidden in the inner leg there. So that looks nice. And there's pretty much no area of this figure that's not covered in this stuff. So I think that's dope and it works really good on the black parts. The only part that's not covered by this is the elbows, and I think that's good because when you bend the elbow, you don't have to worry about it chipping or anything like that because it has like the traditional just regular soft goods in there. So I think that's a great idea. So I like that. They were definitely thinking about the elbows there, so that's good. But you know, when it comes to Mezco Spider-Man figures, even though they look really nice, I'm always nervous because the torso, the material that they used on the torso, it just feels like it's not really meant to last, especially if you have Spider-Man in any kind of crunching pose. You could see that we get some wrinkling in there. And if you leave your figure like that, it's going to get damaged over time. So pretty much you have to have these Mezco Spider-Man figures posed in a way where he's standing straight up. And, you know, that's no fun for a Spider-Man figure. They look amazing, but I just wish that they'd come up with a different type of material for the torso so that we could actually articulate the figures without having to worry about them breaking or getting damaged, especially when it's an exclusive, you know? So that's just my 2 cents when it comes to this material. And yeah, I just wish they'd come up with something else. But it does look great. I like the way that the spider logo looks on the chest. It looks very clean. I love the way the white spider looks on the back. That's really dope. And look at that. Yeah, I really like the way the black looks on this figure. It looks really, really cool. But yeah, this stuff, man, I don't know. They got to come up with something different. But yeah, overall, I love all the details on this figure. It's all very well done and looks really good. And like most Mezco figures, he does come with a lot of really cool accessories, including multiple sets of hands. First off, we have a pair of fists. Then we have a set of open hands. Next up, we have a set of gripping hands. And then lastly, we have a set of thwip hands. And then he does come with 4 different heads, including 3 different masked ones. This is the one that he has on inside of the box, and this is just your standard Spider-Man head. The next one has slightly smaller eyes, and then the final one has really small eyes. It kind of looks like he's squinting or something. And then he does have the unmasked Tom Holland head, and I think this looks awesome. And then he does have a set of glasses that you could put on the unmasked Tom Holland head. And these glasses are nice, but I do wish that they had some kind of like, I don't know, like some kind of image or something going on in the lens. I think that would have been really dope. As is, they're just plain glasses, but they do look pretty cool. And the unmasked head sculpt for this figure is very well done. I would say that this is the best Tom Holland head sculpt in this scale. I think they did a great job with it. I like the way the facial expression looks. The skin tone looks good. The hair looks really good too. We can see that there's some different colors going on in there. We have some brown and then some light brown. And it looks really, really nice. So I think they did a good job with it. And it is the exact same sculpt as the head that came with the homemade version of the Mezco Spider-Man. As you can see here, the sculpt is exactly alike, but the skin tone is a little bit different. I think I like the skin tone a little bit better on the homemade version. But the sculpt is identical on these figures, and it looks really nice. Like I said, it's the best Tom Holland head sculpt in this scale, so they did a good job there. And then he does come with some really cool web accessories. First off, we have these 2 here, and I think that we've seen these before with previous Mezco Spider-Man figures. I can't be 100% sure, but I think we have. If not, we've seen ones that were very similar to these, but these are nice. We have one that's just like a web line coming out, and then one that's like a spray. And I love the way that Mezco does their web effects for Spider-Man, because they look so cool when they're attached to the figure, because the way they do it is there's a little ring that you actually insert into the hand, and then there's a cutout that comes that's like at the bottom of the hand, so the web kind of goes into there. And when you plug it onto the figure, it looks very natural and realistic. It looks like it's coming out of his wrist right there. So that is dope. I love how they did that. But yeah, these web accessories are very nice. But like I said, I think we've seen these ones before. But he does come with some new stuff that we haven't seen before, like this guy here. Check this out. This is awesome. The only thing that worries me about this is that it's pretty stiff. I'm afraid that like it could possibly break if you're not careful with it. So please be careful. There's a lot of little ends and stuff like that. I feel like it's a little rigid. So if you're messing with it too much, you could possibly damage it. So I kind of wish that this was softer material with maybe like metal wires in it so you can manipulate it a little bit. But I think this is really cool, and I just love the fact that they're starting to include more web accessories with Spider-Man, not just your typical sprays and lines and stuff. So this is good. And then we have this here. This is not a new one. We've actually seen this with all the previous Spider-Man figures, but this is nice. It does have a bendy wire in it so you could manipulate it a little bit. So that's cool. And then the last web accessory is this guy here. And this is new for like Mezco figures. It's a little web piece that you could stick on the front of like a figure's face, and it makes it look like Spider-Man just sprayed him in the face. So that is really cool. We got something similar to this with the recently released Gamerverse Spider-Man from the Demi-Goblin wave. So it's cool that like all the different companies are doing all these different web effects. So you could definitely do a lot with those kind of things. And then he also comes with the standard Mezco display base, and this might be my favorite Mezco stand that we've seen so far, because not only does it have an awesome Spider-Man graphic that kind of reminds me of the old Spider-Man cartoons, but it's also completely covered. There's no exposed plastic pieces that are susceptible to scratches like on most Mezco stands. Right here, there's like a printed graphic or something that covers the whole thing, so you don't have to worry about it getting scratched. So that is awesome. I really hope that they do that with all their stands going forward. This is really, really cool. And for some quick size comparisons, we have the Far From Home Spider-Man alongside the Homecoming Spider-Man and the Homecoming Homemade Suit Spider-Man. And as you can see, they're all pretty much the same size, because I think that they all use the same body, so that's good. And then next up, we have them alongside the Marvel Legends Far From Home Spider-Man and the Diamond Select Marvel Select Far From Home Spider-Man. And I would say right now, I think that the Mezco one definitely looks the best out of these 3. But I would say that the Diamond Select one is probably the most enjoyable in hand, because he's the most posable, and he still looks pretty good. Doesn't look as good as the Mezco one, but he's definitely more fun to play with. And next up, we have him alongside the Mafex comic book Spider-Man and the Mafex Homecoming Spider-Man. Here we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Mysterio and the Marvel Legends Stealth Suit Spider-Man. Next, we have him alongside the Mezco 112 Collective Netflix Daredevil and the Mezco 112 Collective Black Panther. And then here we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man and Marvel Legends Bucky Cap. And then finally we have him alongside the Marvel Select Venom and Marvel Select Rhino. And as for the articulation on this figure, it's pretty good, but there's really no surprises because it is the same body that we've seen on a lot of the previous Mezco Spider-Man figures. But it does work. I think it pretty much has everything he needs except for a couple of small things. But let's go ahead and get into it. So first off, his head can move side to side. We've got a little bit of tilt to it. He could look up to about right there, and then he could look down to about right there. Usually, you get a little bit more movement from the head and neck area with Mezco figures because there's movement at the lower neck and at the upper neck. But in this case, there is movement in both of those spots, but for the lower neck, it really doesn't move that much, and I wouldn't advise that you force it because you don't want the neck joint to mess up the material there, so be very careful. It does move, but you're not going to get too much out of it. So I would suggest mostly doing the head movement at the actual head, not at the neck. So that's what you're able to do there. But the head movement's pretty good itself, so I'm okay with that. And then for the torso, we have a mid-torso cut and a waist joint. And using both of them together, he could crunch forward to about right there. So that's pretty good. But again, we have that creasing in the costume, which sucks. And then we get some side to side. He could go back to about right there. And you could also twist. You could twist at the waist and at the mid-torso. So that's nice. Look at that. That's pretty good. And then for the arms, he has ball jointed shoulders. He does not have any kind of butterfly joint in there. But his arms can come up to about right there. And then I start to get nervous because of the costume. Comes back to about right there. You could probably push it a little more, but then you're risking the shoulder there. And then his arm could come out to the side. Then you have the upper bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, which are really nice. Look at that. Bam. That's good. And then we have a ball joint at the wrist, so you get a bunch of swiveling and hinging and swiveling and all kinds of good stuff there. You could rotate it around, do a bunch of different things with the hands, so that's dope. And then for the legs, let's see what we could do. Oh, look at that. He could actually do the splits. Almost. Well, yeah, pretty much, right? And you're not risking the material because it's loose enough, but it's loose enough to maintain some pretty good movement, but they also made it like not look saggy. So that's good. They did a good job with the fit to this costume and just the way that the suit still has some play and you're still able to move it around without risking the material. So that's dope right there. I like how they did that. And then his leg can come up itself to about right there. You could come back only to about right there. Then you have the upper thigh swivel in there. Double jointed knee, which is good. Boom, look at that. You have a swivel at the foot. And you kind of have a rocking situation. You know, you got that little ball joint in there. Or that, what is it called? Dumbbell joint? Double ball joint? Whatever. I think it's called a dumbbell joint. But there you go. You get some... See how good he could stand. He could go to about right there. If you try to push it any further, then his feet are going to come off the ground. But still, that's pretty decent. I do wish the feet had a little bit more, but there we go. No, that's pretty good, right? Not too bad. So yeah, the figure is really posable. So I think the articulation is really nice on this guy. Just, again, I hate to keep complaining about it. It just, you know, messing with the figure... The articulation is nice, but using the articulation risks the figure, you know. So it's kind of bittersweet. They have a good amount of articulation in the figure, but I'm scared to use it because I don't want to damage the material. And I guess that's how it is with a lot of Mezco figures. But with Spider-Man, I just always want to play with them. You know, every Spider-Man figure I have, I spend a lot of time with because I like to mess around with it or like to mess around with them and just see what I could do with them, you know. And with Mezco, he looks so damn good. You want to do things with them, but, you know, it's just kind of scary. Like, I think that looks awesome right there. But, you know, look at all that bunching up right there. So, Yeah, you know, like I said, it's kind of bittersweet with the articulation on this guy. All right, so overall, I love this figure. I think they did a great job with it. I love the way that he looks. He feels like he jumped right out of the movie, which is awesome. I love all the accessories that he comes with, and I think that's where this figure really separates itself from other Mezco Spider-Man figures, because he comes with a lot of really cool stuff. I love all the different web effects, the different heads, the unmasked head, all that stuff is dope. I really like the fact that he came with some glasses. I do wish that there was a little bit of something different going on with the lens, but as is, I think they're pretty cool. And as of right now, I think that he's the only Far From Home Spider-Man in this scale that comes with glasses, so that's dope. I think one of the upcoming Mafex ones has glasses, but for now, this is what we have. But yeah, this is a really nice figure. The only drawback is the fact that he's so susceptible to like being damaged quickly. Like, the articulation is awesome, but as I said before, it's bittersweet because you can't use it to its full potential without risking damaging the figure itself. So that's one thing that kind of sucks, because I love to play with Spider-Man figures. So I can't really do that with this figure. I mean, I can mess with it a little bit. Hopefully I don't damage it while taking pictures or anything like that. But, you know, I'm going to have to wait for like the Mafex one to get like a really cool, fully posable, awesome looking Far From Home Spider-Man that is going to do everything that I want it to do. At least I hope. With this guy, he looks great and he captures the look perfectly, but I can't play with it. And I know that kind of sounds funny, but I like to play with my toys, or you know what I mean, posing, taking pictures. You know, the way that adults play with toys, that's what I like to do with Spider-Man figures. And with this guy, it's kind of impossible because you risk just damaging the suit. So, you know, it is what it is. I really wish that Mezco would come up with a better way to make Spider-Man figures, because they're so good, you know, they're almost perfect, but you just can't do what you can do with most other Spider-Man figures, which is articulated a lot. So, like I said, it's kind of bittersweet, but I do love the figure. I think they did a great job with it, and I'm really, really happy to have it. Once again, huge shout out to Sculptamo Toys for making sure that I got this. And yeah, I think that's it. So thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. If you want to support the channel, be sure to buy an Odious head. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. And that's it. Thank you so much. Peace.